Every banned player in the NFL explained. Adam Pacman Jones. Pacman Jones had more second chances than most players ever dream of. Drafted 6th overall by the Tennessee Titans in 2005, he was explosive on the field. Fast, aggressive, the kind of cornerback who made receivers nervous. But off the field, it was like a never-ending tabloid saga.
Where's profile?
Every day is somebody here. Can I have my own privacy, man?
By 2007, the NFL had enough. After multiple run-ins with the law, including a Las Vegas nightclub incident that ended in gunfire and left a man paralyzed, Roger Goodell hit him with a season-long suspension. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. Pacman was the first player in over 40 years to be suspended for violating the league's personal conduct policy without even being convicted in court. When the NFL does that, you know it's serious. He missed the entire 2007 season, got reinstated, got traded to the Cowboys, then got suspended again. There were bar fights, arrests, probation violations, you name it. Pacman was involved in it. Incredibly, he kept finding his way back into the league. But his reputation never recovered. Daryl Russell. Daryl Russell was a defensive tackle for the Oakland Raiders, and when he was on the field, he was a beast. Number 2 overall pick in the 1997 draft. Made the Pro Bowl twice. At one point, he was even considered the future of the Raiders' defense. But then came the substance abuse issues. Russell started failing drug tests left and right. He got suspended multiple times for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Eventually in 2002, he was hit with an indefinite suspension. The league had enough. They'd given him chances, and he kept blowing them. Literally. The Raiders released him, and that was pretty much it. He tried to mount a comeback, but it never stuck. And then tragedy struck. In 2005, Russell died in a high-speed car crash in Los Angeles. He was just 29. It was the kind of ending you never want to see. Someone with all the talent in the world derailed by addiction and gone too soon. LaRon Landry. LaRon Landry was known for his absurdly jacked physique. The guy looked like he could bench press a pickup truck. He played safety for the Washington Redskins and the Indianapolis Colts and had a solid career until he took things too far. Landry kept getting flagged for using performance-enhancing drugs. It wasn't just one failed test, it was multiple violations. The NFL has a 3 strikes and you're out kind of policy when it comes to PEDs, and Landry managed to hit all 3. In 2015, the league dropped the hammer with an indefinite suspension, which might as well have been a lifetime ban. He never came back. And yeah, we all know PED use happens behind the scenes in every major sport, but when you get caught repeatedly, the league starts to treat you like radioactive material, and that's what happened to Landry. Dante Stallworth. Dante Stallworth was a speedy wide receiver who had played for several teams including the Saints, Patriots, and Browns, and had a decent career. But in March 2009, everything changed. Stallworth was driving in Miami in the early hours after a night of drinking. He was intoxicated, legally over the limit, and struck and killed a pedestrian who was trying to cross the road. He cooperated with authorities, admitted fault, and reached a financial settlement with the victim's family. He ended up serving just 24 days in jail, but the NFL wasn't about to let it slide. Commissioner Goodell suspended Stallworth for the entire 2009 season. When he returned, he signed with a few teams, but was never the same. The talent was there, but the incident cast a long shadow over his career. And even though he technically wasn't banned for life, missing an entire season at the peak of your career is devastating. Josh Gordon. If there's ever been a player who could outrun defenders but not as demons, it's Josh Gordon. This guy had everything. In 2013, he led the NFL in receiving yards, and that was while missing the first 2 games of the season. He had that raw, untouchable, nobody can guard me energy.
Almost looked like Weedman wasn't expecting that pass, but it goes for Gordon, who's got the ball, and a Cleveland Brown.
But behind all that jaw-dropping catches was a storm of substance abuse issues that just never let up. Gordon's career became a carousel of suspensions. It started with a 2-game ban in 2013 for a failed drug test, then another in 2014. Then he missed the entire 2015 season for violating the league's substance abuse policy again. Every time he looked like he was about to return, something pulled him back under. Weed, alcohol, and sometimes even missing mandatory drug tests altogether. The NFL suspended him indefinitely more than once. And while he got reinstated a few times, the rhythm was always the same. Comeback, flash of brilliance, relapse, suspension. Martavis Bryant. Martavis Bryant was built like a wide receiver dream. Tall, fast, could leap out of the stadium. He looked like the next big thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers alongside Antonio Brown. But just like Josh Gordon, Bryant couldn't stay away from substance issues. After flashing serious potential in 2014 and 2015, the NFL handed him a 4-game suspension for violating the drug policy. Okay, not the end of the world, but then came 2016 and the hammer dropped. The league suspended him for the entire season, this time for repeated violations. That kind of suspension sends a very loud message. You're not just slipping up, you're ignoring every warning the league's given you. He was reinstated in 2017, but it was clear the Steelers didn't trust him anymore. He had a few solid games, got traded to the Raiders, and then boom, in 2018 he got hit with an indefinite suspension. again. At this point, the league had seen enough. Bryant tried to get back in through the XFL and other smaller leagues, but that golden NFL window was slammed shut. Darren Waller. Unlike most names on this list, Darren Waller actually turned it around. Waller was a wide receiver turned tight end who got drafted by the Ravens in 2015, but early in his career, he was battling serious addiction, pills, alcohol, you name it. He got suspended for 4 games in 2016, then hit the year-long suspension in 2017 for violating the substance abuse policy again. At that point, most people figured he was done, but Waller didn't just wait out the ban. He went to rehab, got clean, and started rebuilding from the bottom. The Raiders picked him up off the Ravens practice squad and gave him a shot, and he exploded.
We're watching the Baltimore Ravens practice squad work out before the game, and our offensive coordinator, Greg Olson, says, "Who the hell is that guy?" We claimed him on the airplane.
He became one of the best tight ends in the league, even signed a multi-million-dollar contract and spoke openly about his recovery journey. So yeah, Waller was banned, but he's also living proof that you can bounce back. Urique Azarque. Urique Azarque was a defensive lineman for the Denver Broncos drafted in 2022. He had size, talent, and potential. But in July 2023, the league suspended him indefinitely for betting on NFL games during the 2022 season. It might seem harsh, but the NFL has always had zero tolerance when it comes to players betting on their own sport. Even now, with partnerships from every sportsbook under the sun, the players themselves still can't touch it. The craziest part? Azarque was just getting started, a rookie, 1 year in, and he's already out indefinitely. One decision and his entire career is on hold. Whether he comes back or not depends on if the league reinstates him, but even if they do, that trust is already broken. Ray Rice. Ray Rice was a household name, a 3-time Pro Bowl running back in the heart of the Ravens offense, but in 2014, he'd already rushed for over 6,000 yards, helped Baltimore win a Super Bowl, and was one of the faces of the franchise. But then his entire career collapsed in the time it took an elevator door to open. In February 2014, Rice and his fiancée, Janae Palmer, got into an argument at a casino in Atlantic City. Security footage first surfaced showing him dragging her unconscious body out of an elevator. That alone caused outrage, but when the full video from inside the elevator was released a few months later showing Rice punching her in the face and knocking her out cold, the Ravens immediately terminated his contract. The NFL, which had initially suspended him for just 2 games, suddenly switched gears and suspended him indefinitely. The backlash was so massive that the league had to completely rework its domestic violence policy. Now here's the kicker. Rice actually appealed and won. A judge ruled the NFL had acted unfairly by punishing him twice for the same incident. He was reinstated later that year. But the damage was done. No team would touch him. He tried to make a comeback, stayed in shape, even offered to play for free, but nobody was willing to deal with the PR firestorm that would follow signing Ray Rice. Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley was legit WR1, torching secondaries for the Falcons and becoming Matt Ryan's go-to guy after Julio Jones left town. But in March 2022, the NFL made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the league. Ridley was suspended for the entire 2022 season for betting on NFL games. Here's how it unfolded. In October 2021, Ridley stepped away from football to focus on his mental health. Everyone respected the move, but during that time off, Ridley placed parlay bets that included Falcons games using a legal betting app in Florida. The league's investigation found no evidence he used inside info or tried to fix games, but it didn't matter. The NFL's gambling policy is black and white, no betting on football, period, even if you're away from the team. The league came down hard, suspending Ridley indefinitely with eligibility to apply for reinstatement in 2023. And just like that, one of the NFL's top receivers disappeared for an entire season over a bet that totaled about $1,500. The Falcons eventually traded him to the Jaguars while he was still suspended, betting on a redemption arc. In 2023, he was reinstated and put up a strong season, but the incident remains a blemish on an otherwise promising career. Josh Shaw. Now let's talk about a guy who wasn't a superstar, but whose story made headlines for how blatantly he broke the rules. Josh Shaw was a journeyman cornerback, bouncing around the league and eventually landing with the Arizona Cardinals in 2019. That season, he was on injured reserve, meaning he couldn't play, but he was still part of the team. So what did he do with his downtime? He placed multiple bets on NFL games, including games involving the Cardinals. Shaw was actively employed by a team, sitting in team meetings, attending practices, and placing bets on league games, and he did it all under his own name using a legal sportsbook in Las Vegas, which immediately flagged the activity and reported it to the NFL. The league investigated and confirmed the bets. The outcome? Shaw was hit with an indefinite suspension in November 2019 with a minimum ban of 1 year. It was one of the first suspensions under the NFL's newly toughened gambling policies, and the league made an example out of him. He was eligible for reinstatement in 2021, but no team showed interest. His career quickly ended there, and most fans remember him not for his play, but for being the guy who gambled his career away while rehabbing an injury. Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy was once feared. A Pro Bowl defensive end with double-digit sack seasons and a motor that didn't quit. In 2013, he racked up 15 sacks for the Carolina Panthers. But by the next year, he wasn't making headlines for sacks, he was making them for something much darker. In 2014, Hardy was arrested for assaulting and threatening to kill his girlfriend. The allegations were brutal. She said he threw her onto a bed covered in assault rifles, choked her, and dragged her by the hair. Hardy was convicted in a bench trial, but the charges were dropped on appeal when the victim stopped cooperating and the case was expunged. Still, the NFL wasn't letting that slide. He spent most of 2014 on the commissioner's exempt list, a sort of paid limbo where players don't play but don't count toward the roster either. In 2015, the Cowboys controversially gave him a shot, and he returned to the field. But not before the NFL conducted its own investigation and suspended him for 10 games, later reduced to 4. But here's the thing, Hardy didn't learn from the second chance. He was combative with teammates, dismissive in interviews, and carried himself like nothing had happened. After one season with Dallas, no team touched him again. Jarrad Jackson. Jarrad Jackson was a promising safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, drafted in 2007. He had good instincts, could hit hard, and looked like a long-term starter. But behind the scenes, he was battling a different opponent, repeated violations of the NFL's substance abuse policy. It started in 2009, 4-game suspension. Then came 2010, and he got hit with an indefinite ban, which meant the league didn't even set a return date. After missing over a year, he came back, played in 2011, and was signed by Washington in 2012. But guess what? Another indefinite suspension followed shortly after. At that point, the league had given him 3 separate suspensions, 2 of them indefinite. And this wasn't for performance-enhancing drugs or gambling. This was for repeated drug violations, rumored to involve marijuana and possibly harder substances. He was technically reinstated in 2014, but never saw the field again. Justin Blackmon. Justin Blackmon might be one of the biggest what-if stories in NFL history. Coming out of Oklahoma State, he was electric. Fast, physical, confident. The Jaguars took him 5th overall in 2012, expecting him to be the franchise's next superstar wide receiver. And at first, he delivered. In just his rookie year, he put up 865 yards and 5 touchdowns, and that was with chaotic quarterback play. But behind the scenes, it was already starting to unravel. He was arrested for DUI before even playing a game, then again in 2013. Then came a 4-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. But it didn't stop there. That same year, the NFL hit him with an indefinite suspension for yet another violation, just 2 seasons into his career. And here's the wild part, he never came back. He applied for reinstatement in 2015 and was denied. He tried again later, denied again. The league wasn't budging, and teams moved on. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you can stay up to date with our recent posts. See you in the next video.